Hi everyone, my name is Alicia Nyblade and I'm new to the AuthorTuber community, and so I wanted to make this little video to introduce myself. I grew up reading historical fiction, a lot of the classics too. I was born visually impaired, and so because of that, I rely mostly on large print books. And this was back in the days when, before ebooks and Kindle and all that, so all the large print books were physical books. And the latest book didn't always get a large print edition. So long story short, I grew up reading a lot of the classics and older books because that was what was available to me. But also I developed a genuine love for those types of stories and really romantic, with a capital R, romantic, flowery language. Victor Hugo and Edgar Allan Poe are my two favorite authors that I've loved since I was a kid. And also I grew up with mythology, of course, the Arthurian legends, Norse mythology, things like that. And so that's my background, is really rooted in classic literature, um, romantic literature, the epic stories that some kids in English class didn't enjoy, but I gobbled them up. The most modern books I ever read, I would have to say, were Nancy Drew books, The Babysitter's Club, but then again, a lot of girls in the 90s read those. So yeah, I stuck to the classics a lot, and that's the style that I myself write in. I use a lot of those same techniques, a lot of grandiose language, lengthy paragraphs, things like that. I am a playwright and also a fiction writer. I've been working on an adaptation of Victor Hugo's novel The Man Who Laughs since 2009, and it recently just had a staged reading, which is where the actors sit in front of music stands and just read the script out loud to let the words and the story and the way language tells the story take center stage. And that was done by Lincoln High School in Michigan, in a town that I will not try to pronounce, but it's this town. The name of the town's right here. And it went really well. I couldn't be there for the reading, but they filmed it for me and sent it to me, so I will link that in the description below if you'd like to see it. The Man Who Laughs, it tells the story of Gwynplaine, who is a clown who was disfigured as a child because his father rebelled against the aristocracy. He stood for the Republic and refused to go back to bowing down to the monarchy when it was restored in 1660. And so as a punishment to that, his son Gwynplaine was disfigured with a Glasgow smile, sort of like Heath Ledger's Joker. And he grew up not knowing anything about that his father was a nobleman, because he was abandoned by the men who disfigured him. And so Gwynplaine grows up working as a clown, not knowing that he's the son of an aristocrat. And he grows up with his surrogate father and a blind girl named Dea, who he falls in love with, and Gwynplaine and Dea have this beautiful romance. But of course, society and the greedy aristocracy get in the way, because it wouldn't be a Victor Hugo story without those conflicts. And I adapted the story because, well, first of all, the character of Dea. People with disabilities aren't really represented in theater a lot, and so I wanted to write a character who I felt a kinship with, a sisterhood with, and to really let my experiences sort of speak through her, what it's like to grow up as a person with a visual impairment. Because even though Dea lived in the early 1700s and the story is set in early 18th century England, a lot of the challenges and prejudices and stereotypes concerning people with disabilities really haven't changed all that much in the centuries that passed between her lifetime and my lifetime. And so I wanted to share her story and give actresses like me a chance to share our experiences through portraying her role. And also there's a lot of political relevancy, I don't know if that's a word, but political links to what's going on now. Gwynplaine growing up as a commoner, and he's whisked off to be reinstated into his father's titles by the aristocracy because they think he'll be an easily controllable puppet. They think, oh, he'll be so dazzled by riches and the life of the aristocracy, and he'll be so grateful that he, a little peasant, was plucked up from the mud to this higher pedestal, that of course he'll just do whatever we say and be our puppet. And Gwynplaine's like, yeah, no, I got some news for you. I'm not gonna bow to you guys. Basically he tells the aristocrats where they can stick it. And that, I think, is a message that is really relevant to today, with all the political corruption and turmoil, and the fact that, especially with the government in my country right now, the United States, they think they can pull the wool over our eyes, and they think that we don't see what they're up to. Political affiliations aside, there's corruption all over the place, and it needs to be dealt with, and we the people need to rise up and tell the people who've made politics their career to keep themselves rich. We need to tell them, yeah, no, we see what you're doing. We see that our country is not a democracy, it's an oligarchy, and we the people who put you in your places, thank you very much. Just as high as we set you, that low we can bring you. So the political comparisons are another reason I adapted the story. And also with some of the characters in the story being witchy, being pagans, I myself follow an eclectic pagan path, and I wanted to write characters who show that paganism and following the old ways is about honoring nature, respecting the cycles of the seasons, and both the divine masculine and the divine feminine, they both have their equal roles and equal parts to play in shaping and calling forth the universe. And that's why I adapted The Man Who Laughs for the political ties to modern day, and to give voices to characters who I feel don't have a lot of voices and fair representation in theater. And also, as an author, I am working on a sci-fi series called Splintered Spirits that I am writing with a very dear friend of mine. His name is Anton Salvin, and the series is set in France in the 1920s, and it follows 4 sisters who are the daughters of an alchemist. He created them using his arts, and he raised them on a ship, on a Zeppelin, that is kept secret from the world. It's hidden by a cloak of clouds that the professor can weave around the ship through, again, his alchemical arts. And he raised the 4 girls on the ship, teaching them his secrets, teaching them about the laws that govern this universe. He taught them that alchemy isn't just what humanity thinks it to be. It's not just a superficial sense of, oh, it's these secrets that can turn metal into gold. It's not just what led to chemistry and other physical sciences. It's about the spiritual side of alchemy, the using things like working with chakras and energy work and spiritual work and calling on the different faces of the divine who manifest through the different gods and goddesses of different human religions, who are, those gods and goddesses represent different aspects of the greater divine masculine and divine feminine, calling on them to help lift up your soul and carry it along the spiral of death and rebirth and reincarnation until you reach your soul's perfection. And so it deals with a lot of the spiritual aspects of alchemy and teaches that those spiritual aspects are the more important aspects than the physical side of thinking, oh, it's just turning metal into gold and things like that. So the professor raises the four sisters on the ship, and then when they turn 17, he sends them down to Earth, down to France, to help human souls who need it. And each book will follow one of the four sisters on her first adventure as they all work together with people. And the first book I'm writing in the series follows the story of Rubus. And Rubus is the toughest, most no-nonsense of the daughters. She was born as an Aries. Her birthday was March 21st. And so being a fire sign, and I'm an Aries, so I know how tough and fiery we can be. But she was trained to be very closed off and shielded from her emotions, because all the girls manifest into existence with certain strengths, and Rubus's power is physical strength, and if she lets her emotions run wild, too wild, that can set her off, even if she doesn't mean to flash out with her powers. And so she's very tightly controlled and very closed off, and she's taught herself to keep her emotions bottled inside. And so of course her story centers around romance. She meets a painter named Charles, who he has developed his art in the sense of seeing it very superficially. He doesn't see the spiritual aspect of it, much like how humanity overall lost the spiritual side of alchemy and saw it and came to view it and see it as just the physical aspects of turning metal into gold or things like that. Charles sees painting as simply painting pretty pictures, and Rubus will of course teach him better than that. And during the course of their work together, they fall in love. And that's all I'm going to say, lest I spoil too much for you. But anyway, those are my latest projects I'm working on, and I just wanted to introduce myself to the AuthorTuber community, and I will link all my socials down below, and I look forward to meeting you all, and thank you for watching, and have a great day. And to my fellow pagans, blessed be, and have a wonderful midsummer, summer solstice, because today is June 21st, the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. So have a wonderful midsummer, and thanks for watching.